The last defense platform exploded in silence. Ambassador Rena pressed her thin hands against the viewport of her escape pod, watching her world die. Below, Kalar Prime burned. The Drakari invasion fleet had come without warning, and now her people, gentle, peaceful, unprepared, were being harvested like crops. Rena was old by Quillari standards. Her exoskeleton had faded from bright blue to pale gray. She had spent 40 years building diplomatic relations across the galaxy. She knew every species, every protocol, every rule of the Galactic Council, and she knew one more thing. One secret thing. There was a frequency the Council had banned centuries ago. A channel that reached a quarantined system on the edge of the galaxy. A world called Earth. Home to creatures the galaxy called Deathworlders. The Council had warned everyone. Never contact them. They evolved on a planet of constant death. Earthquakes, hurricanes, predators, disease. They survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on their world. They were violent, unpredictable, best left alone. Rena's fingers trembled over the communication panel. Her people were dying. The Council's rules meant nothing now. She opened the forbidden channel and spoke. This is Ambassador Rena of the Quillari. We are under attack. Millions are dying. Please, if anyone can hear this, help us. The message flew across the stars at speeds that bent physics. It passed dead worlds and empty systems. It slipped through the quarantine barrier that was supposed to keep the Deathworlders contained. It reached Earth, in the Australian outback. A listening station sat alone under the stars. Colonel Priya Anand was reviewing reports when her communication officer ran into the room. Colonel, you need to hear this. Priya listened to the message 3 times. The translation software struggled with some words, but the meaning was clear. Someone out there was dying. Someone was calling for help. She picked up her phone. This is Colonel Anand. Wake up the 77th Expeditionary Force. Full combat deployment. We have a rescue operation. Within 6 hours, the UNSS Resolve fired its engines. It was not a beautiful ship. It was armored, angular, built to survive anything the universe could throw at it. In its cargo bay, 2,000 soldiers checked their weapons and armor. Private Kofi Mensah was one of them. He was 23 years old, a combat medic from Ghana. He had joined the United Nations Space Force to help people. He had never expected to actually meet aliens. You nervous? His squad leader, Sergeant Diego Vargas, asked. Yes, Kofi admitted. Good. Nervous keeps you alive. Stupid gets you killed. Vargas clapped him on the shoulder. Just remember, someone out there called for help. That's why we're going. In the cockpit of Dropship 7, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka ran her pre-flight checks for the 3rd time. She was the best pilot in the fleet, and she knew it. But this was different. This was first contact. This was everything humanity had dreamed about for centuries, and they were going and shooting. All hands, this is Colonel Anand. The voice came through every speaker on the ship. In 12 hours, we will enter the Quillari system. We do not know what we will find. We do not know if we can win. But I know this. Someone called for help, and we answered. That is what humans do. That is who we are. Whatever comes next, I am proud to serve with each of you. The ship fell silent. Then, slowly, soldiers began to check their weapons one more time. Pilots reviewed their flight plans. Medics organized their supplies. 12 hours later, the Resolve dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Yuki was the first to see it. Hundreds of black ships surrounded a burning planet. Wreckage floated everywhere, broken stations, shattered vessels, bodies drifting in the void. My God, she whispered. On the bridge, Colonel Anand studied the enemy fleet. Her tactical officer was already speaking. Colonel, they outnumber us significantly. We should consider. No, Priya said quietly. We didn't come all this way to turn back. A signal came through. One of the black ships was hailing them. A face appeared on screen, gray skin, for eyes, a mouth full of sharp teeth. Commander Golvath of the Drakari Empire. Unknown vessel, he said, his voice dripping with amusement. You have entered Drakari harvesting space. Leave now, or you will be added to our collection. Your species looks interesting. I wonder what you taste like. Priya stood and faced the screen. I am Colonel Priya Anand of the United Nations Space Force. We received a distress call from this system. We are here to answer it. You have 1 hour to retreat. Golvath laughed. It was an ugly sound. One ship? Against my fleet? You primitives are amusing. Perhaps I will keep you as pets before I eat you. Priya's expression did not change. 59 minutes, she said, and cut the transmission. Deep in space, still drifting in her escape pod, Ambassador Rena heard a new signal. A human voice, speaking words she did not fully understand, but somehow felt in her heart. All Quillari survivors, this is the United Nations Space Force. We received your distress call. Help is here. Repeat, help is here. Rena began to cry. She did not know if these Deathworlders could save her people. She did not know what price they might demand. But for the first time in days, she felt something she had forgotten: hope. Golvath made his first mistake when he ordered his fighters to engage the human ship. He expected the primitives to run. Every species ran when they saw Dracari fighters. The small, fast attack craft had destroyed 1,000 fleets across the galaxy. They were death itself. The human ship did not run. It accelerated directly toward them. Yuki launched her dropship into the chaos. Around her, human fighters poured from the resolve like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. She had trained for years in simulators, but nothing prepared her for real combat. Explosions lit the darkness. Ships died in silence. Voices screamed over the radio. Break left. Break left. I'm hit. Stay focused. Stay on target. Yuki gripped her controls and dove toward a Dracari cruiser. Her weapons officer locked onto the enemy ship. Missiles away. The cruiser's shields flickered and died. Human weapons were crude by galactic standards. Simple kinetic projectiles and explosive warheads. But they hit hard. Harder than anything the Dracari had ever faced. Inside the Resolve, Colonel Anand watched her tactical display with cold eyes. The Dracari had expected easy prey. They were learning otherwise. Launch boarding parties, she ordered. Target their command ships. Sergeant Vargas led the first team. Their dropship crashed through the hull of a Dracari cruiser, and then his soldiers poured out into the enemy vessel. The gravity inside was higher than Earth standard. The Dracari liked to crush prisoners with oppressive weight. Vargas smiled. Earth's gravity was even higher. His soldiers moved through the corridors like ghosts. The Dracari crew was large and strong, but they had never fought predators before. Every sapient species in the galaxy had evolved from prey animals or gentle herbivores. Humans had evolved from hunters who chased their food until it collapsed from exhaustion. The Dracari did not understand why these small, soft creatures would not stop coming. Private Kofi followed his squad through the dark hallways. His medical kit bounced against his hip. Screams echoed from somewhere ahead. Not human screams. Alien screams. Contact left. Vargas shouted. Kofi raised his weapon and fired. A Dracari soldier fell. Then another. The fighting was brutal and fast. Humans were smaller than Dracari, but they were relentless. They fought with a fury that made no sense to their enemies. Then Kofi heard a different sound. Crying. Weak and frightened, he broke from his squad and followed the sound. Vargas yelled at him to stop, but Kofi did not listen. He kicked open a door and found them. Quillari. Dozens of them. Crammed into a holding cell like animals. Their thin bodies trembled. Their large eyes stared at him with pure terror. Kofi slowly lowered his weapon. He removed his helmet so they could see his face. It's okay, he said softly. I'm here to help. You're safe now. One of the Quillari, a child, or what Kofi assumed was a child, reached toward him with a shaking hand. Kofi took it gently. The child's skin was cold and delicate, like paper. Safe? The child whispered. Safe, Kofi promised that on the bridge of the Resolve, reports flooded in. Boarding parties were successful. Dracari ships were falling. Commander Golvath's flagship was retreating toward the edge of the system, but Colonel Anand was focused on something else. A signal from a drifting escape pod. Ambassador Rena, she said into the communication system. This is Colonel Anand. We're coming to get you. Rena heard the voice through her failing radio. She had been drifting for days. Her water was gone. Her hope had nearly died. But now, I hear you, she managed to say. I am here. 20 minutes later, a human dropship matched speed with her pod. Soldiers cut through the hull and found her collapsed on the floor. One of them, a young woman with dark hair, lifted Rena in her arms as if she weighed nothing. I've got you, the soldier said. You're going to be okay. Rena was brought aboard the Resolve. Medical teams surrounded her, speaking quickly in their strange language. They gave her water. They treated her wounds. They wrapped her in warm blankets. Then Colonel Anand entered the room. Rena saw her, and felt a spike of fear. The human woman moved like a predator, confident, alert, dangerous. Her eyes tracked everything. Her body was coiled with barely contained power, but then Priya smiled. It was a gentle smile. "Ambassador," she said, "I'm glad we found you in time." "What?" Rena asked. Her voice was weak. "Why did you come? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you. The galaxy told you to stay away." Priya sat beside her bed. She was quiet for a moment. "When I was a child," she said, "my village flooded. We lost everything. Strangers came from far away to help us. They brought food, medicine, shelter. They asked for nothing in return. When I asked my mother why, she said, 'Because that is what good people do.'" Priya looked at Rena with serious eyes. "You called for help. We answered. That is all the reason we need." Rena stared at this strange, terrifying, wonderful creature. The galaxy had called them monsters. The galaxy was wrong. Then the alarm sounded. "Colonel to the bridge," a voice announced. "Enemy reinforcements detected." Priya stood. Her gentle expression hardened into something cold and sharp. "How many?" Rena asked. Priya checked her communicator. Her jaw tightened. 500 ships. They sent their main fleet. She looked at Rena. "Stay here. Rest. This isn't over yet." She walked out, and Rena watched her go point 500 ships. Against one dot, and somehow, Rena believed the humans might still win. The Dracari reinforcement fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of locusts. 500 warships. At their center, the dreadnought Eternal Hunger blocked out the stars. It was the largest vessel Golvath commanded, a mountain of metal built to break worlds that on the bridge of the Resolve, Colonel Anand watched them come. "Orders, Colonel?" her tactical officer asked. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. "Signal all ships to form up around us." Priya's voice was calm. "We protect the planet. We do not retreat. Colonel, with respect, we cannot win this fight. Then we will make it cost them everything." The human fleet was small. 8 warships, 40 fighters, 2,000 soldiers scattered across captured Dracari vessels and the burning surface of Kalar Prime. Against 500 enemies, the math was simple. Impossible, but humans had never been good at math. Admiral Wei Chun commanded from the UNSS Defiance. He was an old man now, gray hair, tired eyes, but his mind was sharp as a blade. He studied the enemy formation and saw their weakness. The Dracari expected organized warfare. Lines of ships trading fire at safe distances, coordinated attacks, and strategic retreats. That was how civilized species fought. Humans were not civilized. "All ships," Wei announced, "full acceleration. We're going straight through their center." His captains hesitated for only a moment. Then they obeyed. The human fleet charged. Not in formation, not in careful lines. They scattered and dove directly into the enemy armada, weaving between massive Dracari cruisers like wolves among confused cattle. Golvath watched in disbelief. "What are they doing? This is suicide." But it wasn't suicide. It was chaos. And humans thrived in chaos. Dracari ships could not fire on the human vessels without hitting their own fleet. Their organized formations collapsed into confusion. Friendly fire erupted across the battlefield. Commanders screamed orders that no one could follow. Yuki flew her dropship through the madness. Enemy fire streaked past her cockpit. Explosions bloomed in every direction. She laughed, not from joy, but from the pure insanity of being alive when she should have been dead. "Drop team ready," her co-pilot reported. "Find me a target." On the surface of Kalar Prime, Sergeant Vargas led his squad through the ruins of a once beautiful city. Glass towers had become broken teeth. Gardens had become ash. The Dracari ground forces were everywhere, hunting for survivors, loading prisoners onto transport ships. Vargas was hunting too. "Contact ahead," Private Kofi whispered. "Looks like a slave transport." 12 guards. Vargas studied the scene. A group of Quillari, mostly elderly and children, were being forced toward the transport at gunpoint. The Dracari guards were careless. They did not expect resistance. "On my signal," Vargas said. 3, 2, 1. The squad opened fire. It was over in seconds. 12 Dracari bodies hit the ground. The Quillari prisoners screamed in terror until they saw their rescuers. "Human?" one of the elderly Quillari asked. "You are human?" "Yes," Vargas said. "We're here to help. Is there somewhere safe we can take you?" The elder pointed toward a distant hill. There is a bunker. Underground. Many children hide there. Vargas nodded. Lead the way. We'll protect you. Back on the Resolve, Colonel Anand prepared for her most dangerous mission yet. The enemy flagship, the Eternal Hunger, was the key. If they could kill Golvath, the Drakari fleet would fall apart. She gathered her best soldiers. 20 volunteers for a boarding action that would likely kill them all. You don't have to do this, she told them. This is beyond duty. A young corporal stepped forward. Colonel, permission to speak freely? Granted. We didn't come here to play it safe. We came here because someone needed help. If killing that ugly four-eyed bastard saves lives, then let's go kill him. Priya smiled. It was a warrior's smile. Load up. Their dropship launched into the hell of battle. Drakari fighters swarmed around them. 2 escort ships were destroyed in the first minute. But Yuki was piloting, and Yuki did not die easily. She slammed the dropship through the Eternal Hunger's shields at the exact moment they flickered from an overload. They crashed into the docking bay with enough force to kill everyone inside. Except the humans were strapped in and armored. They hit the ground running. Ambassador Rena watched from the medical bay of the Resolve. A young human nurse sat with her, monitoring her vital signs. Your colonel, Rena said quietly. She is leading the attack on the enemy flagship? Yes, the nurse replied. She could die. She knows. Rena's antennae drooped. I do not understand your species. You risk everything for strangers. You charge into death without hesitation. Are you not afraid? The nurse smiled sadly. We're terrified, but fear doesn't stop us. It never has. On the enemy flagship, Colonel Anand fought through corridors filled with smoke and screaming. Her soldiers fell around her, one by one, then two by two. By the time she reached the bridge, only 3 remained. The doors blew open. Golvath stood waiting, surrounded by his personal guard. You are persistent, he snarled. I will enjoy eating you slowly. Priya raised her weapon. You talk too much. The fight for the galaxy's future began. Commander Golvath was twice the size of any human. His chitinous armor could stop bullets. His claws could tear through metal. He had killed thousands of enemies in personal combat, and he had never lost. Colonel Anand attacked anyway. Her 3 remaining soldiers engaged his guards. The bridge of the Eternal Hunger erupted into close-quarters combat, the most brutal, desperate fighting any of them had ever experienced. Humans and Drakari died in the flickering emergency lights. Priya ducked under Golvath's first strike. His claw shattered the console behind her. She fired point-blank into his chest. The bullets sparked off his armor, but did not penetrate. Weak, he laughed. Your weapons cannot hurt me. She dropped her gun and drew her combat knife. Golvath laughed harder. A blade? Against my shell? You are insane. Maybe, Priya said, but I'm still standing. She moved like water. Fast, unpredictable, relentless. Golvath was stronger, but she was quicker. He swung and missed. She dodged and cut, not at his armored plates, but at the soft joints between them. Blood began to flow. His blood that he roared in fury and caught her with a backhand blow that sent her flying across the bridge. She hit the wall hard enough to crack ribs. Pain exploded through her body. Get up, she told herself. Get up. She got up. Golvath stared at her with disbelieving eyes. Why won't you die? Humans don't die easy. She spat blood onto the floor. It's a Deathworld thing. He charged. She waited until the last moment, then dropped low and drove her knife upward, into the soft tissue under his jaw. The blade sank deep. Golvath made a choking sound. His massive body swayed. You cannot. I can, Priya whispered. And I did. He fell. The bridge shook with the impact of his body hitting the floor. Priya stood over him for a long moment. Then she activated her communicator. Target eliminated. All ships. The enemy commander is dead. On the Resolve, Admiral Wei heard the message and immediately broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, Drakari fleet. Your supreme commander is dead. Your flagship is captured. Retreat now or be destroyed. The effect was instantaneous. Without Golvath's iron will holding them together, the Drakari captains panicked. Some ships fled. Others fired on each other as old rivalries erupted. The organized fleet became a mob. Human ships pressed their advantage. They were still outnumbered, but the Drakari no longer fought as one dot on the planet's surface. Sergeant Vargas had reached the underground bunker. Inside, he He found something that made his battle-hardened heart break. Thousands of Quillari children, huddled in darkness, starving, terrified. The youngest could not have been more than a few years old by human standards. They flinched away from his soldiers as if expecting to be killed. Private Kofi knelt beside a small group of them. He opened his medical kit and pulled out a ration bar. "Here," he said softly. "Food. It's safe." A tiny Quillari girl, blue exoskeleton, huge frightened eyes, reached out with trembling hands. She took the ration bar and bit into it. Her eyes went wide. "Good?" Kofi asked. She nodded. Then she burst into tears. Kofi sat down beside her. He did not speak. He simply waited, offering his presence as comfort. After a while, the girl crawled into his lap. He held her gently, carefully, as if she were made of glass. Outside the bunker, the battle was turning. Drakari ground forces were in full retreat. Human dropships controlled the skies. The slave transports that had been hauling away prisoners were destroyed or captured. Lieutenant Yuki landed her dropship beside the bunker entrance. She had flown for 18 hours straight. Her hands cramped from gripping the controls. Her eyes burned from staring at screens. But she refused to stop. "Reinforcements delivered," she reported. "Ready for evacuation runs when you need them." Vargas looked at the thousands of children around him. It would take dozens of trips to move them all. "We need them now," he said. On the eternal hunger, Colonel Anand limped through the corridors. Her boarding team was gone, dead or too wounded to move. She was alone on an enemy ship surrounded by Drakari who had just learned their commander was dead. She did not hide. She walked openly, her bloody knife still in her hand. Drakari soldiers saw her coming. Some raised weapons. Then they saw the blood, their commander's blood, on her armor. They saw the look in her eyes. They stepped aside. She walked all the way to the docking bay. A human dropship was waiting, sent by Admiral Wei to extract her. As she climbed aboard, the pilot stared at her. "Colonel, are you okay?" Priya looked at her shaking hands, at the blood that covered her from head to toe, at the wounds that would leave scars forever. "No," she said honestly, "but the mission is complete. Get me back to my ship." Hours later, the battle was over. The Drakari fleet was scattered, some destroyed, most fled, a few surrendered. Kalar Prime was saved, but Priya did not celebrate. She sat in her quarters, staring at nothing. The faces of the soldiers she had lost played through her mind. Good people, dead because she had led them into that ship. A knock at her door. "Come in." Ambassador Rena entered. She looked healthier now, stronger. She sat beside Priya without speaking. "I killed him," Priya finally said. "Their commander. I killed him with my hands. I know. I don't regret it. But she struggled for words. "I remember who I was before this. Before I became someone who could do that." Rena placed a gentle hand on hers. "You did not become a monster," she said quietly. "You became a shield. There is a difference." Priya looked at her with tired eyes. "Is there?" "Yes," Rena said firmly. "Monsters hurt others for pleasure. You hurt others to save the innocent. That is not the same thing at all." For the first time in hours, Priya allowed herself to breathe. The war was over. The healing could begin. 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council received its first full report. Senior Arbiter Mollusk, an ancient being from a species that communicated through color-changing skin, read the data 17 times. He could not believe it. He did not want to believe it. The Deathworlders had saved an entire civilization. They had destroyed a Drakari invasion force. They had killed Supreme Commander Golvath in personal combat, and they had asked for nothing in return. "This is unprecedented," Mollusk said to the assembled council. 12 species were represented. Each one had evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates. Each one feared the quarantine system called Sol. "The humans have broken the containment protocol. They saved the Quillari," another counselor pointed out. "Should we punish them for that? They are dangerous. Their world produces monsters. Their world produced rescuers." The debate continued for hours. Meanwhile, on Kalar Prime, the real work was happening. Private Kofi had not slept more than 4 hours at a time since the battle ended. There were too many wounded, too many sick, too many children who had lost everything and needed someone to tell them it would be okay. He sat in a makeshift medical tent, treating a Quillari elder whose leg had been crushed by falling debris. The old creature watched him work with curious eyes. "You are gentle," the elder said. "I did not expect that from your kind." Kofi smiled. Most people don't. They hear Deathworlder and imagine monsters. What should they imagine instead? Kofi thought about the question. He thought about his village in Ghana, about his mother, who worked as a nurse, about his father, who taught children to read. Survivors, he said finally. We're survivors. Our world tried to kill us every day, so we learned to take care of each other. That's the only way any of us made it. The elder was quiet for a moment. Perhaps, she said, the galaxy has judged you wrongly. Perhaps, Kofi agreed. On the resolve, Colonel Anand stood before a communication screen. Her wounds were healing, but the scars would remain, on her body and in her mind. She had killed the most feared commander in Drakari history. She did not feel like a hero. The screen flickered. Earth appeared, specifically, the office of General Hammond, commander of the United Nations Space Force. Colonel Anand, he said, I have read your report. Remarkable work. Thank you, sir. The Security Council has voted. Given the new diplomatic situation, we are expanding our presence in this region. You are being promoted to general. You will command the new Terran Protectorate Fleet. Priya blinked. Protectorate Fleet, sir? Our mission is changing, General. We're not just exploring anymore. We're protecting. Any species that calls for help, we answer. Any slave or empire that threatens the innocent, we stop. That's our new purpose. Priya thought of the children in that bunker. The terror in their eyes. The relief when they realized they were safe. I understand, sir. I accept the promotion. Good. Your first assignment is already waiting. An unknown species called the Velcani is requesting assistance. Pirates are raiding their trade routes. I'm sending you the coordinates. The screen went dark. Priya stared at it for a long moment. Another mission. Another species in need. The work never ended. She found she was glad. Lieutenant Yuki was promoted to commander. She would lead the new fleet's rescue wing. Fast ships designed for extraction missions. She spent her first day in the new role studying maps of the galaxy, memorizing systems, planning routes. Sergeant Vargas was offered a desk job. He turned it down. He would stay with his soldiers on the ground, where he belonged. But he accepted a new title, Sergeant Major of the Protectorate Ground Forces, and Kofi, Private Kofi, who had never expected to be anything special, was given command of the first interspecies medical training program. He would teach aliens how to treat human injuries. He would learn how to treat theirs. He would build bridges between species, one patient at a time. Ambassador Rena watched all of this happen from her recovering homeworld. The Quillari were rebuilding. Slowly, painfully, but with hope they had not felt in years. Humans walked among them now. Soldiers helping to clear rubble, engineers repairing power systems, medics treating the sick. They worked alongside Quillari as if there were no differences between them. Rena had spent her whole life studying diplomacy. She had negotiated treaties between empires. She had prevented wars through careful words and patient compromise. But she had never seen anything like this. Humans did not negotiate. They did not calculate costs and benefits. Someone needed help, so they helped. It was that simple and that terrifying. Because if humanity ever turned that relentless, unstoppable determination toward conquest instead of protection, the galaxy would burn. But Rena did not believe that would happen. She had seen Priya's face when she talked about saving lives. She had watched Kofi hold a frightened child with infinite gentleness. She had seen soldiers share their food with starving refugees without being asked. These were not conquerors. These were guardians. The galaxy just didn't know it yet. She began drafting her report to the Galactic Council. It would be the most important document of her long career. The humans are not what we feared, she wrote. They are what we should have hoped for. Dangerous, yes. Violent when necessary. But beneath that violence lies something rare in this galaxy. A species that protects others simply because it is the right thing to do. She paused, considering her next words carefully. The Drakari called them Deathworlders as an insult. But I have seen the truth. They are not agents of death. They are shields against it. And the galaxy should be grateful they finally answered our call. She sent the message. Now they would wait to see if the galaxy was ready to listen. 6 months after the Battle of Kalar Prime, the United Nations General Assembly opened its doors to the stars. The chamber had been rebuilt to accommodate alien delegates. New seating sections. Adjusted lighting. Climate controls for species that needed different atmospheres. It was crowded, chaotic, and historic. Ambassador Rena stood at the podium. Behind her, a holographic display showed the galaxy. Billions of stars, countless worlds, infinite possibilities. She spoke in English now. She had practiced for months. Her accent was strange, her pronunciation imperfect, but every word was clear. 6 months ago, my people were dying. The Dracari had come to harvest us. Our fleet was destroyed. Our cities burned. We had no hope. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the assembly. Then I did something forbidden. I sent a message to a quarantine system. A world the Galactic Council had warned us never to contact. A world called Earth. Murmurs rippled through the alien delegates. They had all heard the stories. Deathworld. Dangerous. Violent. The humans came, Rena continued. They did not know us. We had nothing to offer them. We could not pay them or trade with them or help them in any way. But they came anyway. They fought. They bled. They died. For strangers. She looked directly at the human delegates, generals, ambassadors, politicians. Among them sat General Priya Anand, wearing her dress uniform and the scars she would carry forever. I asked their colonel why they helped us. She told me something I will never forget. She said, "You called for help. That's all the reason we ever need." The chamber was silent. The galaxy feared the Deathworlders, Rena said. We should not have. We should have called them sooner. Because when humanity hears a cry for help, nothing in the universe can stop them from answering. She stepped back from the podium. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Quillari delegate section began to clap, their thin hands making soft sounds like falling rain. Other species joined. Soon the entire chamber was applauding. General Anand did not smile. She was too tired for that. But she felt something warm in her chest, something like hope. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Humans and aliens mingled awkwardly, trying to navigate vast cultural differences. Kofi stood in a corner, watching with amusement as a human diplomat tried to explain handshakes to a species that communicated through smell. You look lost, a voice said beside him. He turned. A young Quillari woman stood there, about his age, if he had to guess. Her exoskeleton was a healthy blue, and her large eyes studied him with curiosity. Tila, she said, you saved me. In the bunker. Kofi blinked. The frightened child who had crawled into his lap. She had grown so much. I remember you, he said softly. You gave me food when I was starving. You held me when I was scared. She smiled, or what passed for a smile among her species. I wanted to thank you. And to tell you something. What? I am joining the Protectorate Medical Corps. I want to learn what you know. I want to help others the way you helped me. Kofi felt tears prick his eyes. He had never thought much about legacy. He was just a kid from Ghana who wanted to help people. But here was his legacy, standing in front of him. A young woman whose life he had saved, now dedicating herself to saving others. I would be honored to teach you, he said. Across the room, Commander Yuki was explaining fighter tactics to a group of fascinated alien pilots. They had never encountered someone who flew like she did. Aggressive, unpredictable, fearless. You fly like you expect to die, one of them observed. I fly like I refuse to die, Yuki corrected. There's a difference. Sergeant Major Vargas stood near the exit, uncomfortable in formal clothes. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. But Priya had insisted he attend. A Quillari elder approached him, the same one whose leg Kofi had treated weeks ago. Sergeant Major, she said, I wanted to meet the human who protected our children. Vargas shifted awkwardly. I was just doing my job, ma'am. No, she said firmly. You were doing something far more than that. You were being a guardian. The galaxy has many soldiers. It has very few guardians. Before he could respond, she pressed something into his hand. A small crystal pendant, carved with Quillari symbols. A gift, she explained. It means protector of the innocent. You have earned it. Vargas looked at the pendant. He had earned many medals in his career. None of them meant as much as this. Thank you. He managed. As the reception ended, General Anand stood alone by a window. The stars spread out before her. Infinite, beautiful, dangerous. Her aide approached. General, we've received a new distress signal. The Velcani are requesting immediate assistance. Pirates have taken hostages. Priya nodded slowly. She should have been exhausted. She should have wanted rest. Instead, she felt alive. Prepare the fleet, she said. We launch in 6 hours. Yes, General. She looked at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, people were suffering. People were crying out for help. People were praying that someone, anyone, would answer. Humanity would answer. That was what they did. That was who they were. Rena's voice echoed in her memory. When humanity hears a cry for help, nothing in the universe can stop them from answering. General Priya Anand straightened her uniform and walked toward the door. There was work to be done. The galaxy had called. The Deathworlders responded. They always would.